Hi, I'm Amy Porter. Some of you know me as a flutist and a classical musician, others as a professor, and some of you know me as a publisher and arranger. I'm a stepmom, I'm a business owner, and I'm the founder of a couple of nonprofits. And this is my podcast. My core mission as an entrepreneur is to appreciate what I have around me. And then I try and see as clearly as possible how I can help. So let's talk, let's share information, let's laugh and sometimes cry over the things that we have to work through in life and in music, in business and family and relationships. Come on into my Porter Flute pod. Welcome to Porter Flute Pod. This is episode 10 in our second season. We are pairing our flute etudes with our flute issues. So what issues can we help you with today and solve them through etudes? In the podcast, asking questions are Justine Sedke and Ellen J. Tomasetti. And I went to find my edition of the 32 Rose Etudes for Flute. These are based on the etudes of Franz Wilhelm Ferling. And I published them with Carl Fischer. So these are oboe etudes that were transcribed into clarinet etudes and then transcribed into flute etudes. So you'll be hearing them throughout the podcast. We're so glad you're here. I'll start by saying I am going to address the etudes that are intermediate level and maybe a bit beginner level. I'm not going to be talking about those showpieces, the Paganini caprices, the Perpetuum mobile by Paganini. I'm not going to be discussing the Carr-Gaylord caprices or the Capricci by Di Lorenzo. I feel that those are quite advanced, and I'd like to just keep it a little bit less stressful. So what purpose do etudes serve if we aren't using them for skill, right? We don't want to use technical showpieces meant to impress, not to serve. I think it makes us feel overly empowered and at the same time stressed out. So pick an etude that's right for your skill. Today, I'd like to do some prescriptive pairings for the issues you may have on the flute, and I'll pair them up with some of our most beloved etude composers. And also showcase the Ferling, Rose, Porter etudes. Remember that flute professors and clarinet professors and oboe professors were the original composers of etudes for their instruments, and I'm so happy this tradition is carrying on. Let's take a moment to consider this too. What would pedagogy be without etudes? It's like having math class and you have to show examples of the math. And if you want to get any work or you want to solve the equations, you have to do a lot of examples first. So etudes serve the purpose of the examples. And with depth and inclusivity, you can find articulations, you can find speed, you can find tone, you can find key signatures. All skill sets are tested in etudes, and it is in this practice we find our solutions. Let's start with the bad tone day. I've spoken about it on YouTube. I've spoken about it in my movie Anatomy of Sound, but it still comes up. What do I do with my fuzzy sound, Professor Porter? What etudes can I turn to? Well, I posed that question to my student, Sandra, this week. And Sandra answered between etude 1 through 6 of Ferling, adapted by Rose. Out of the Rose etudes, she chose number 1. And that's the etude you heard at the top of this podcast during my welcome. She felt that this etude gave her time to think about her sound, gave her enough time to consider what she was going to do next to make that sound better. She also mentioned gravity. You see, this etude starts on a low C. and that's not easy. So we did it 5 times, this entrance, and she was future thinking it and overthinking it until then all of a sudden it became like natural. Gravity did its thing. She let go. She enjoyed singing with the airstream. She connected with the inner membrane of the lip. And don't forget that we have a lot of options beyond the straight tone to solve our tone issues. I think we can do interval, slowly, anything medium to slow would be really great. If you're feeling you only have 15 minutes and you really want to get your sound a little better. Please enjoy the middle of Rose Etude number 1, the Andante Cantabile. It's just such a beautiful melody to play. And consider this, if you're really trying to find your sound, play a melody, play music. Here's scenario number 2, articulation speed. The issue is, my tongue is feeling kind of sluggish today, and we are rehearsing Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony this morning. I want to be as warmed up as possible for it. Help, Professor Porter. What are some of the etudes that help me get up to speed? Well, the Italian Symphony is triple tonguing, and so you don't want to be tired for it. You want to make sure that the muscle, the tongue, is really, really ready to work and not overworked. So I wouldn't suggest playing Altez number 19, which is triple tonguing, right before rehearsal, but maybe in the days before rehearsal, Altez 19. Now, make sure you're thinking up all the time. You don't want to find every nail to hammer. You don't want to feel down and accent every note. You want to lose weight on articulation. You want to have the tip of the tongue working. Tiny Tina taps in her tutu on her tiptoes. If you'd like combinations of things, Altez offers so much in terms of articulation. So you can turn to Altez number 21 for the 1 and 3 combination. Double tonguing, you can turn to Altez 12, the long, short combination, Altez 6. I think for 2 and 2, nothing's better than Anderson Opus 15, number 15. And if you'd like a Mozartian articulation slur to tongue to, look no further than Garibaldi 4. I'm going to play Rose excerpt from number 4. Study number 4 incorporates the combinations of slur to, and double tonguing. So I find that this excerpt works everything in combination quite well. Here's scenario number 3. It's about connecting slurs. We got to sight read Brahms' First Symphony today in rehearsal, but I noticed that all my slurs are broken and they aren't as smooth as I want them to be. And we have sectionals tomorrow morning, and I don't want to get called out for not matching the first player. Help, Professor Porter, what etudes can I play tonight to help me with connecting my own legato lines and slurs? Well, I would suggest taking that Brahms' First Symphony solo with the intervals and transposing it into different keys, using the tuner and seeing if the intervals are true. But this starts on an E. So basically in Brahms, make sure that you're tuning your E. Do you need the right fifth finger or not? Which is the correct vibrato speed to use? So just make sure that within the intervals, you're thinking about lots of other connections. Airflow is really a big deal. We want to make sure that the phrase is going forward as if it were in one octave. So if you have big intervals that are leaping, why don't you just put it into one octave just for a minute? Do you know how to jump? Well, in order to go up, you go down first. So I would suggest focusing on the bottom notes when you want the pop note to then, through momentum, pop out. For octave help, look no further than Ernesto Kohler's Romantic Etude number 9. And if you want even more fun, Altez number 10. And I would say if you really want some warm-ups, turn to Moïse Etudes and Exercises number 3 and number 6. For slurring, I'd put a fermata at the top and go slowly. I'm going to use today Rose Etude number 5. This is an excerpt from measure 38, and it's Adagio con espressione. This is a scenario that I can relate to. I have my juries tomorrow and I'm playing Chandelinos, but my low register has been in a fog today, and those low repetitive Ds aren't popping out like they used to. Help, Professor Porter. What etudes can I play to help me refresh my low register? Well, today I'm looking to Moïse for this low register remedy. Moïse wrote a book called Etudes et Exercises, and I'm stealing this from another teacher. It's amazing. My students study with this teacher, Robert Langevin, so this is how he does it, and so I stole it. It's page 16, number 12. You're going to start with ha-ha, and you're just going to go ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. And now I did it for eight bars, and then you're going to do it 2 ways. Just ha-ha. And by ha-ha, I mean really no articulation, no use of the tongue at all. Yes, correct. The tongue is going to be told to not do anything, and it's going to rebel, but you are going to first do ha-ha disconnected, and then you're going to turn around and do it again connected. And that will help you with Chandelinos. That is ha-ha with tu or do on top of it. Like the ha is the diaphragmatic pressure, the do is the release, and then you're connecting it with the air. So really, this is the most brilliant exercise for Chandelinos. It's Moïse Etudes and Exercises. I'll say it again, page 16, number 12. I am going to do it for you and just put it all out there for you to hear. Scenario number 5, breath control and long phrases. Here's one. I'm recovering from a cold and I don't feel like I have the lung capacity I did when I was feeling well. Help, Professor Porter, what etudes can I play to help my breath control and hold longer phrases while I recover? Well, I'll have to kind of say, being one who's had pneumonia several times in my life, I know what it feels like to not be able to hold a long phrase. That's why I am so passionate about keeping the air in. And that's what we have to do. But the lungs, if they're not feeling well, they're going to push it out. So make sure you're relying also on your diaphragm. Breath control is based on the diaphragm keeping it down and tricking it into staying down. As I talk to you, I'm running out of air. But as I breathe in, the diaphragm is sinking back down, allowing me to breathe normally. As I breathe and talk, I'm hardly using any air. But if I breathe and play the flute, there's no resistance. There's no resistance on that head joint. It is very hard. So what we do is we try to keep the diaphragm going down. So we do breathing scales, and breathing scales are 2 octaves in a row, slurred, at a certain tempo. So you can do 3 tempi a day. Try 88 and do a couple of scales, and then 84 and do a few scales, and then 80. So you have 3 different tempos, and you trick yourself into slowing down. And then the next week, that top number of 88, that top number will be 84. The second number will be 80, and then 76. So every week, you'll go down by 4. The third week, 80, 76, 72. You get it. Those are breathing scales. If you'd like to know the number 1 cure for the Mendelssohn's scherzo in, one breath at the end, that is breathing scales. And then Altez 22 is a duet rendition of Mendelssohn's scherzo. Check out Anderson Opus 15, number 3. Are you interested in circular breathing? There's lots and lots of resources, including Will Offerman's Etude number 10. I'm going to play Rose Etude number 5 for you. I think if you're not feeling well, this is the best etude to play because you can go for a little while and then take a nice, luxurious breath. Scenario number 6 has to be finger twisters. Awkward finger twisters. It's really cold out and my fingers are feeling a little stiff. My scales are fine, but anything more complicated than that, I'm struggling on. And we're playing some pretty tricky pieces in wind ensemble, and the composer's quite ambitious in the flute parts. Help, Professor Porter! What etudes can I play to help me make my fingers more nimble and ready for awkward finger twists? Well, I would say Finger Busters by Mike Mower would help. Those are some of the hardest finger busters I've ever heard or studied. They're jazz finger busters. So if you're looking for classical finger busters, you can look no further than, of course, Reichert Daily Exercises Opus 5, Makar, or even Barrere's Flutist Formula. If you're looking for more, then check out Anderson Opus 15, number 7, those neighboring notes mixed in with chromaticism. You see, you have to pick the key signature you work in and then pick a composer to solve your issues within the genre. So perhaps you're looking to more meaty, contemporary etudes, but just make sure that you're serving your purpose. For me, grace notes, they're my bone of contention. They're my pet peeve. And so I let the little notes go. But listen, there's this analogy here that, like little children, even the smallest notes need the most care. So I chose to play Rose Etude number 22, Allegro Moderato. It's got a lot of grace notes. Our final scenario, an etude that hits everything in one go. So here it is. I'm coming home from a long day of exams, studying, and even though I'm tired, I still have enough energy to play an etude rather than a solo work or some of my excerpts. Help, Professor Porter, what etudes can I play to end my day that feel like a solo piece, much shorter and still covers many of the topics we talked about today? Well, at that point, you can incorporate Paganini 24 or Kargaler 30th Caprice, or how about that grand finale study of Drouet? You can also hit Anderson Opus 15, number 24. I'm going to end the podcast with Ferling, then Rose, and then Porter. The Andante, it's number 23. I like it because it starts with an introduction, much like some of Furstenau's etudes. They start with an introduction and then you launch into the etude. And don't forget to have an etude party when you're finished a method. Just complete with applause and a happy dance. I certainly hope that we've helped with your etuditis in this podcast. Join us for our next podcast, Business 101. We'll be featuring managers and PR and marketing, and we're going to have a special guest, Nicole Ricardo from NR Media. You can find more about me at amyporter.com or porterflute.com. And on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, I'm Porter Flute. Thanks for being here. I'm so grateful for you.